Welcome. I get to speak about my favorite topic, and that's what gets me excited. But it's also a painful topic to anybody who's going through career stagnation, wondering, why am I not getting the recognition that I feel my work deserves? I have been there, I have experienced the pain, and I have overcome that pain. That's why I do what I do. At the risk of sounding like Bill Clinton, I feel your pain. So let me tell you, in career advancement, there are areas that you can control and then the areas you can't. And the reason we get into very frustrating loops and lose a lot of time is we try to control areas that we really don't have any control over. For example, the quality of your leadership team, the opportunities in your organization, or for that matter, the economic conditions, right, that surround your current state. But one thing that I have noticed consistently, and it impacted me, the areas that we can control and we sometimes ignore is communication. Communication is huge, it's broad, it covers everything from how articulate you are, how effectively you convey your message, your influence building skills, and how people perceive you. Do they perceive you as a leader? That's what this whole course and coaching session, which I call my one on one mentorship program, is about. How do people perceive you? It all stems from how you communicate and how you establish yourself as competent and influential. Every leadership survey in the last 10 years or so has mentioned communication in the top five. It's that important. But why don't we pay attention to that? We think, well, I get by, I speak well, but what could I be missing? A whole lot. What makes you stand out above your competition? What makes you memorable? And I will get to that shortly in this masterclass. How to master communication and your leadership presence in 60 days or less. Let's begin with, how do we become memorable? So, by the end of this session, of this masterclass, you are going to see how you can differentiate yourself. Not just, you know what your competencies are, you know what your unique value proposition is. The question is, how are you going to showcase your substance and your style? And that's what we call the unique vocal brand. But it's not to get you to sound like everybody else. It's got to sound, you got to sound like you, and you got to sound competent, credible, and trustworthy. And that's where we're going next. Now, I want to imagine you as somebody who has mastered communication, who has understood the foundations, who has applied it. And this is the situation. You go into a high stakes scenario, like a job interview for a senior leadership position, and you know your interviewer has already checked all those boxes you see on the top, meets most requirements, dress the part, observable expertise, well prepared, right? Then they themselves don't know this, but what they're going to say is, I know it when I see it. And that's the intangibles, it factor. So, so this is what I'm trying to convince you today, is why communication skills and how to apply your communication skills matters so much. Say that you have really understood what communication is, how to leverage it, how to become that effective communicator. This is what you acquire. You acquire the it factor. Now, all of a sudden, because of your mastery over communication and relationships and people, you are able to showcase your substance by expressing competence through clarity, cohesion, and brevity. Big words, maybe, but here's the bottom line. Are you being clear? Is your message cohesive? And beyond all, is it short and crisp? Nobody wants to listen to a long winded person. Second, are you adapting your own demeanor to match the situation? That we'll cover in the next steps. And then you're so adept at communication, you can self regulate your tone of voice and your non-verbal skills just based on the situation. And secondly, you showcase your style by phenomenal connection with the interviewer, by showing not just connection, also some energy and vitality. Now, when they see this, this is where they say, I really like this person and I think he'll be a good fit in the company. And this is where they say, looks and feels like a fit gets a check mark, belongs at the table gets a check mark, and ready to lead. You're in. So this is how vital knowing how to manage and navigate conversations in high stakes conversation can be so beneficial to your career. And this is a quote that I have to say, this is a part of my program. Mastering communication is the bridge between ambition and achievement. You won't be here today if it wasn't for the fact that you have a drive within you, a passion to succeed. All you have to do is fine tune and refine those communication skills to get you where you want to go next. So why am I the one conveying this message to you? Who am I? Who is Vidya? So let's talk about that, right? So today I am a motivational speaker. I speak for a living. I'm also a certified coach, and I'm also an author, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, why did I choose this field of speaking? Because speaking is my passion. And then I love coaching and mentoring people. That's what I discovered, that's when I decided to go off on my own, when I realized I have this passion and the competency to do what I want to do. But my journey in the corporate world was never that easy. I languished in a role for a long, long time, the early part of my career. Nobody gave me meaningful feedback, so I didn't know what my blind spots were. Of course, I turned to self-help authors, and somewhere there, I started to see what nobody was telling me about. I had to work on my communication, right? Once I figured that out, learned everything I had to learn about emotional intelligence that went with good conversations, everything changed for me. And my climb up the corporate ladder was rapid. Then I started mentoring people, coaching people, and things really felt good. I felt I now know what I've been called to do. But I also want to share a story of my beginnings. I grew up in India and I came to the US 35 years ago. So I did my master's in India. That's me there. And when I came here to the US, I knew English, but there was a time when I never quite understood why my English was not connecting with my American audience. And people would tell me things like, could you say that again, please? And I repeated myself. And only after years did I realize, wait a second, why are they not understanding me? It's when I moved from being a programmer to a project manager, I realized I need to do something about that. What about my communication skills is not connecting? I realized in my communication journey that I didn't quite understand the American intonation, the rhythm of speaking. And secondly, the most important point was never my accent. It was really not knowing the concept of stressed syllables and unstressed syllables. And frankly, if you're in the category of people who speak a different language, you will know exactly what I'm talking about, because most other languages don't have that rhythm. So it's just learning a little bit and changing and growing aware of it and getting better. So as I learned and grew and applied myself, this is who I am right now. I am making a living of motivational speaking. I speak to large audiences. I'm a coach. Who would have thought, right? And if you ever thought you were born with a fixed set of skills and the way you speak is the outcome of your situation, I tell you to just hold that thought, because I'm going to get there. So I am now a speaker, a coach, and an author called to help people advance in their career. Just so that you know, I am passionate, deeply, deeply passionate about helping people get ahead in their career. That is why I wrote this book. At Lucky You, an insider's guide to achieving success and finding fulfillment in the corporate world. I mean, that's how passionate I am. And I encourage you to go read the reviews on Amazon. It was a bestseller. It achieved #1 new release status. And I'm extremely proud of my work. And I realize there is a strategy. It's not about working hard, please. It's about working smart, knowing what to focus on. So that is who I am, and that's why I'm actually offering up this mentorship program. Moving on. So when you get to that level of communication, right? And it's not a big climb at all, let me tell you. It's knowing what to work on. The 2 or 3 fixes you make help you leverage your capacity to influence people. And that's exactly what it takes to get ahead in your career. The things you benefit by is people, there's a buy-in for your ideas, you build relationships, you get more promotion opportunities. Instead of feeling unhappy about the fact that people don't recognize your competence, now you're being offered promotion because you speak effectively. A bigger paycheck, I don't have to say that. And with the bigger paycheck comes bigger bonuses and a higher lifetime earnings, leadership roles, funding for your ideas, and obviously if you speak well, communicate well, you get hired faster. Look at the benefits of investing in your communication skills. That's the one thing I want you to keep in mind. It is transformational. A little bit of thought and intention behind your communication can change everything. If my transformation is possible. I mean, I think I'm a living proof, and so are my many mentees and clients who have completely transformed their communication game. Now, let's move on to the other side. Like, what does ineffective communication cost you? Think of it. Think of the steep price we pay for not amping up our communication game. We don't get buy-in for our ideas. Our relationships are not strong. They seem more transactional because we don't take the time to cultivate relationships. Obviously, we get passed over for promotions. We miss out on salary increases. And with that comes bonuses and a higher lifetime earnings. Think of it. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in terms of lifetime earnings just because we don't get the opportunity to advance our career, of course, leadership skills, leadership roles, funding for our ideas, and getting hired. So ineffective communication, we pay a huge price for that. Now, given the scenario I just showcased at the beginning, like if you had that it factor with the what I call precise communication skills, knowing how to influence, how to connect, what to say, when, with the right tone of voice, this is what you miss out on. You don't have the intangibles, and then you're left scratching your head saying, why did I not get the job? It's because we didn't think of it holistically in terms of truly effective communication skills. Effective communication skills really is about, do people pick up on the message you're trying to convey? Because we all look at the world with very different lenses. We call it the subjective reality. We see the world through our own filters. So that's why a deep empathy and a connection is so critical for effective communication. So at this point, you've heard what it is and what it isn't, right? And the heavy price you pay for ineffective communication. Now, it's very obvious. People know communication skills is extremely important for career advancement. But they also believe in these myths. One, that all your vocal habits is permanent. It cannot be changed. That's who I am, a fixed mindset. But you know what? A lot of vocal changes, communication mannerisms that you thought were fixed can be changed. The other thing, we assume incorrectly that we don't have control. You may believe you don't have the control to adapt and adjust your communication style. Maybe it's a little too late in your career. Absolutely not. I am telling you, I can change midstream in a sentence, in a meeting. If I pick up a micro expression on somebody else's face, I change and adapt my communication style. You have so much control. You have more agency than you give yourself credit for. And the third and most common myth when it comes to improving communication, oh, it's very time consuming. I have big responsibilities in work. How am I going to manage working on this while I'm still trying to meet my deadlines? Now, I'm not saying it's completely wrong, but let me tell you, everything about the process that you're going to see now is not going to consume any of your time. All it asks you to do is become intentional. Become intentional in everyday conversations. Not a minute more. You just have to practice in everyday conversations to improving your communication skills based on the format I'm just going to showcase. So none of these myths are true. No, it's not fixed. Yes, you can change. A lot of it is behavior change, which surprises people. And the other thing is you have control. You have control mid-conversation to change your tone of voice when you start feeling somebody is misunderstanding you. And third, no, it's not time consuming, but you do need to have the intentionality in anything and everything you do at work. So basically, your workplace is your laboratory. You're going to practice on your coworkers, maybe in not in the high stakes conversations, but maybe in the low stakes ones. So let's move on. So, I just mentioned low stakes and medium stakes. So you can get to practice everything that I'm going to showcase next in low stakes to medium stakes conversations. You get to practice all those communication skill refinements during those conversations. So you don't have to experiment during high stakes conversation. What are high stakes conversations? Maybe a salary increase negotiation, maybe a request to your boss for a promotion. Maybe it's also something to do with crisis communication. Maybe your implementation has just collapsed and everybody in the company is really annoyed at the loss and you have to communicate during a moment of crisis. It's also during performance evaluation. And if you're a leader, you know what I mean. You're walking on eggshells when you're giving performance evaluations because people take it to heart, right? So these are very important. By the way, the high stakes conversations can change the trajectory of your career. The low stakes to medium stakes are great for nurturing a relationship, which you do need if you want to expand your influence. So keep that in mind. No extra time, you get to practice while you're at work. So effective communication obviously is your road to career advancement. No two ways about it. You will advance your career if you get intentional about effective communication. As the definition states here, effective communication conveys information and emotions clearly and understandably, fostering mutual understanding and achieve desired results. Because what is the point of speaking and sharing a message if you don't arrive at a mutual understanding? That's the problem. That's why you have conflicts. That's why you have misunderstandings. That's why there are so many redos in the corporate world, because two people don't see eye to eye on the same information. So how do you communicate effectively? Let me show you how. Here's your road to effective communication. This is all about leveling up your communication skills. The promise in 30 days or less. And it's so well structured, entirely focused on you, right? This is what I do with my clients. So we first establish their communication style. There are multiple communication styles. You could be a direct communicator. You could be the ones who are classified as supportive, the people who need the softer touch. You don't like those transactional types who just come to you and get work done, right? It could be maybe an indirect communication style. It could be you're deeply analytical. Every communication style, by the way, has their strength and their weaknesses. The question is, this program will address your weakness. That's the goal. Because I tell you, there'll be one or two key weaknesses that are limiting your impact or limiting your influence in the company. And that's all it takes to know what to address. Because communication is huge. But what are we addressing to get this transformation, to level up your communication skills in 30 days? Then we talk about How do you build confidence? Because most of you know one or two areas where you really feel you're struggling, and in a way that's limiting your confidence. And here, through structured exercises, my clients practice and prepare to overcome those weaknesses to build on their confidence. Then comes everything about career advancement, which is expanding your influence at work. It's all about various ways you use emotional intelligence. And then, obviously, from the very beginning of this process, you're establishing systems, daily routines to never ever keep effective communications away from top of mind. It has to be top of mind. And that's your optimizing your daily routine. So the first step for a quick snapshot on the process, which you also will see in the starter guide, is your communications style. Every program of transformation starts with awareness. So know what is your unique style, know its strengths and weaknesses, and know how to leverage it. Now, let's talk about your weak links, right? It could be so many aspects that cause you to trip you up. And on the next slide, I'm going to showcase some of the common weak links in most people. Let's look at that. What are the common causes for ineffective communication? One is there is a tendency to not be clear because we ramble on. We give way too much information overload, complexity. Remember, the mantra has to always be keep it simple, always. Speak at a 5th grade level so that people understand it. And I'll get to that in a moment. And then we talk about poor listening skills, terrible for relationship building. If you are a poor listener, just know that they can be transformed in no time at all. If you just focus on listening skills for 1 week, I promise you, you're going to be a better listener at the end of the week. It's that simple a process. Again, daily dose of intentionality. And then you talk about language and cultural differences. If you're talking in the US alone, you have the Southern accent, you have the Northern accent, and Southerners sometimes get plagued with biases against them. People make judgments on them. So how do you work around it, right? Similarly, all the other accents that ail us. I'm not saying change your accent, but make yourself a more effective, but at least if nothing else, picking up on intonation, picking up on language rhythm. These are the things that limit our impact. Not speaking with vocal variety can kill you. Just think of that professor who spoke to you in a monotonous voice. That's the person I'm talking about. You don't want to be that person. You want people to be engaged to what you're saying. If you speak in a monotonous tone, basically you look disinterested. So the question people ask you is, why should I be interested if you're not interested, right? And of course, if you have any distracting non-verbals, things that distract from your core message, there are so many examples where people's body language has conveyed almost all the message, and it's an exact opposition to your words. So many studies that start at 70% of your messaging comes from your body language. So if you're sharing an idea you're super excited about, and you're sharing it with stiff and tense shoulders, stiff body posture, nobody's going to believe that you truly are passionate about that idea. So you don't want your non-verbals to negate what your verbals are doing. So this is something you can raise awareness quickly and fix all these little tics we have. Emotional barriers. Maybe it's deep anxiety during presentation. How do we address that? Again, so simple. If you have a plan, and that's what we do. For our clients, we create a plan which is easy to follow, easy to apply with no real time commitment, as long as it's top of mind and you practice it, right? Lack of empathy, we will talk about it when we get to the expand your influence, because seriously, if you lack empathy in communication, very hard to build relationships. So we isolate true areas that are unique to you, that are complicating your ascent up the career ladder. Those are the ones that get addressed in the map we create. Now let's talk about step number 2, your communication confidence. This one is to create, remember I said we're all unique. We don't want to be like everybody else. We don't want to get lost in the sea of sameness. We have to differentiate ourselves. So anything and everything that's already a part of you is helping you create your unique vocal brand. It's all refining on the edges and then giving you that oomph factor, maybe vocal variety, maybe a better rhythm, when you speak, you stress your syllables. All those things can help your brand. And simple things like deep breathing strengthen your voice. Like, for example, if you have a low volume, we can work on exercises to strengthen your breath to get you a better, more volume in your voice, better projection for presentation. So by the way, where does your confidence come from? And I'm going to give you a small analogy, and I heard this from Dr. Wayne Dyer. In high pressure situations, right? So when this is a metaphor, when you squeeze an orange real hard, what do you get? Orange juice, right? If you squeeze it really, really hard, you're not going to get apple juice. Same thing. So your mindset is that whatever is inside you comes out of you in your tone of voice when you're under pressure, when you're squeezed. So that is why if your tone of voice is all about how you feel inside, it's important to have a mindset that's good, thinking good thoughts. So even in your intentionality in your mind before any conversation, just tell yourself calm, cheerful, and when you walk in, centered, present in a conversation, you're going to suddenly notice that your tone of voice expresses warmth, expresses sincerity. It's so simple. This is what people don't get, how simple this is. So your mindset, and we'll put in a few little exercises to make sure what is inside you is always solid and always good. So your tone of voice, when you feel your words and you speak, is going to be amazingly connecting with another person. And of course, also to build your confidence, what else do you do? We focus on those weak links in your current vocal brand that are limiting your progress, right? Isolate those that have the highest impact and that can help you get a fastest turnaround to make you more influential at work. And then step number 3, this is all about relationship building. This is all about empathy. It's about mastering your mindset. It's about all the pillars of emotional intelligence. And it's thinking about, again, what is your voice communicating about you? What's the substance? What's the style? Different situations need different approaches, right? If you are in a room where you are leading a conversation and you want compliance, maybe you want to project authority. Maybe you want to build a connection. In another situation, you want to project what? Humility, connection, warmth. So you get to be that. And then there are certain communication styles that steal your leadership ability. So there's this need to learn to communicate in a clear and crisp manner without rambling on. So to build your confidence, we talked in the previous step, we could talk about structures that help you get crisp and clear communication. And of course, to be an amazing conversation partner, a person who knows that you have to extend conversations if your goal and desire is to build a strong relationship, not to abruptly cut somebody off, not to stymie the conversation, not to hijack a conversation. These are these lovely little aspects and skills that make you stand out from the rest of the crowd. So this is how you build and expand your influence. And of course, as we got through these steps until this point, their habits are being formed, right? And this is where you set up, you optimize your daily routine. And this is where my clients have set protocols to follow. No extra time. It is protocols to follow as you execute on your workday. And then there are some materials to study over the weekend to sharpen your skills. But for the most part, during your workday, you're not taking on more. You are just executing and practicing, mostly in low stakes and mid stakes conversations, not in high. But you'll start seeing amazing shifts happen. And if people have asked me like, oh, but I use so many filler words, how can I just make that go away? Oh my God, simple. Intentionality, self-awareness. Once somebody points out to you that you use filler words like uhs and ums that distract from your core message, you'll stop doing it. You know how you'll stop doing it? Because every time you say it, you'll catch yourself. And pretty soon, you become so focused on that, you're not saying it anymore. That's how good the process is. So, this is you getting to the right routine to optimize your daily routine to get more impactful every day. So, this is how the transformation happens. So, again, what I just covered with you is my unique road to effective communication. We follow along these 4 steps. In 30 days, transformation, level up your communication skills. So, just to remind you again, what does effective communication earn you? All of this, think of this, look at the benefit of, and everything that you did up until now can be scaled, right? Those 4 steps can be scaled and iterated to the point where you have this mastery on communication skills. What does that get you? It gets you all of this, a higher lifetime earnings, buy-in for your ideas, getting hired faster. There's no end to what effective communication can do for your career. To summarize, everything about this program, this mentorship program, is about your strengths, your unique challenges, and your unique situation. We take all that into consideration while we orchestrate the step by step advancement. We start with your communication style, we identify what are the weak links and help you overcome them, especially if they are detrimental. Then we work on building your confidence. And remember, charisma, that whole it factor, truly depends on 2 things: you exuding confidence and at the same time demonstrating care. So you see, those are the people that leave a lasting impression. And then we talk about expanding your influence and working on a very simple framework to expand your influence and your leadership presence. And how do you go about doing all that? Adopting the right habits. The right habits and optimizing your day for the right habits is the magic. That's where the magic happens. And you will see remarkable results. You will see a transformation because it's only focused on the essentials, not on all the fluff that you typically get with a lot of other programs. So, yes, you can master communication and your leadership presence in 60 days or less. I hope you found it helpful.